I knew nothing about this going into it other than the fact that Elijah Wood sports a fetching moustache in it. But apart from that, I'd managed to stay away from really hearing anything about it at all. I don't think I've ever even heard anyone say if they thought it was good or bad. I'm also not familiar with the work of the director or writer of this, so I had pretty much no idea what to expect, but my initial impression was positive. I liked the cinematography, it's a good looking movie. I also liked the overall tone of it. Because it has this very ominous tone to it, where you expect things to go wrong. But at the same time, there is a certain comedic lean to it as well, but it's a little bit more subtle. And the premise here is pretty simple. It's about a man who goes to see his estranged father, who happens to live in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, I think. And I just gotta mention here that the location they found to shoot this in is gorgeous. It's really just the perfect backdrop, and it feels a lot less generic than most movies. But anyway, at first this looks like it might just turn out to be more of a drama actually. Although as I said, there is that ominous tone that clearly gives you some idea that it might not. And then, after a while, something does happen, but it doesn't necessarily take the turn one might expect. And it didn't go down that straight up horror route I thought it was building towards either. Instead it did something very different, and it had me wondering where it's going next. Because this is not a movie that follows any sort of predefined path, or any sort of paint by numbers template where you can predict exactly what's gonna happen next. In fact, about halfway through it takes another left turn, and at that point it opens up a bit more. After that you can see a bit more clearly what's going on and where it might be going. And I really do see what this movie was trying to do, and I appreciate the attempt. However, I couldn't help but to feel a little bit underwhelmed by it overall. It never really clicked with me, and it just felt like it was missing something. But it was almost there, almost, and I could see some people liking it more than I did. But that also made it a bit frustrating for me personally, because it was just really close to working, but not quite there. It just didn't quite hit the mark and ended up feeling a bit lackluster. Except for one very brief moment toward the very end, and that's when it nailed it. That's when it hit the mark. I just wish it would have done that for the rest of the movie too. But unfortunately that wasn't the case, and yeah, I didn't end up caring for this that much. I just thought that as a whole it was just sort of meh. A valiant effort, but not quite the gem it tried to be. And I guess that's the risk you take when you go off the beaten path and try to do something a bit different. But at the same time, if you're gonna fall short, why not fall short trying to do something fresh and interesting like this? Instead of doing the same thing everyone else is doing over and over again. And while this might not quite work, I will say that it is still a fairly well made movie, on a technical level. I didn't have any specific issues with it, nothing stood out as being poorly handled. And I did like the performances and the overall look of the movie too. But at the end of the day, for whatever reason, this just didn't end up working for me. However, would I recommend it? Not really, but it might still be worth giving a shot. So maybe give it a look. Or don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on PayPal or Patreon through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.